Okay, it's time to have the talk. What's up, friends? My name is Joss and welcome back to squibblesreads. Today I'm going to be talking about a really controversial topic here on Booktube, and that is young adult fiction, primarily hyped young adult fiction. Over the past 2 months, I filmed this video 3 times, and I'm just trying to get the right balance of, I guess, objective observations and more subjective opinions of my own. I will put a disclaimer here. I do encourage you guys to watch the video the whole way through and then metabolize all of the information that I present as a whole. As a human being, I naturally have preferences and inclinations. It is a part of life. That being said, I refuse to shame anyone for their reading preferences, no matter what they are. None of the content that I present in this video is intended to induce shame. Katie over at Chapter Stacks made a video regarding YA, and most of my opinions are actually really similar to hers, so I will encourage you to check her video out too, and I will link that down below. Something that has really inspired me to make this video lately is my February book haul. Watching that book haul again, I realized that the majority of the books that I got were not YA. Yet, if you look at the comments, the majority of the comments that I got were about the 2 books in that haul that were YA. On one hand, I am so happy that people are discussing the books that I got with me, because obviously if I didn't want to read them, I wouldn't have gotten them in the first place. But on the other hand, I'm a little sad that some of the books that I was the most excited about that aren't YA weren't really talked about all that much. So that being said, let's get into the discussion today. Like Katie mentioned in her video, there are some personal reasons why I'm talking about this, as well as some observations that I've made. What is YA? YA is generally just targeted at an audience between the ages of 12 and 18, according to the American Library Association. However, a study performed in 2012, which I will link down below, states that 55%, so more than half of the consumers that are reading YA, are over the age of 18. So this is where things start to get a little bit murky. Before I started my own channel here on Booktube, I was a content consumer. The Booktube channels that I saw on social media that were the most talked about primarily read YA, and they read a lot of the same books, which are generally new releases, and this is not necessarily a bad thing. What it does is creates camaraderie and ways for people to connect. When I see people that I like get excited about something, it makes me really happy that they're happy, and thus that makes me more inclined to try out a book that made them happy. Like I talked about in previous videos, before Booktube I did not read a lot of YA. I read thrillers, contemporaries, and literary fiction, and also some classics for school. Naturally, that put me behind in the YA world, and I didn't know any of these characters who these people loved so much. So I consumed a lot of YA very quickly, especially in the first couple months here on Booktube. Getting to know these characters and their stories helped me connect with so many people here, and I am so grateful for all of you that I've connected with through YA fiction. A prominent issue that I've seen is shame towards readers who primarily read YA, and I have not seen this happening with adults who read mostly children's fiction or middle grade fiction. It's just YA. I was talking to someone the other day about this, and we were both thinking that it might have something to do with these social stereotype that teenagers are emotion-fueled, mindless human beings who are just stuck to their phones and full of angst and puberty hormones. I mean, I will repeat that these are not my opinions at all. While my preferences are admittedly less YA than my first couple months on Booktube, I don't promote shaming other people for their reading preferences, whatever they may be. However, since 2016 started, I found myself forming the strongest connections on an entirely different level with books that aren't YA, and these are books that have kept me thinking for a long time about social commentary after I finished reading them. They're not necessarily books that are super empowering or have a really positive, optimistic message with super likable characters, but they're so thought-provoking around moral issues. One book that comes to mind is Shelter by Jung Yoon, and I did a full review on this, which I will link down below. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about whether or not the fact that it is not targeted at a YA audience is important. And it dawned on me that yes, that fact is important. It fearlessly tackled issues that YA books typically don't delve into. Specifically, it involves parents who are in their 70s who are strongly tied to their traditional, non-Western values. In addition to that, the protagonist is also trying to balance making his mortgage payments every month, being a husband and a father, and keeping his full-time tenure job as a professor at a university. And it was written in close third-person perspective here. I mean, let's be real here, there are no YA books out there that feature a 36-year-old male protagonist who has these issues. This does not discount YA in any way, but these are issues that people in their 30s and 40s experience. And if they're looking for protagonists that are like them in this way and in their age group, they wouldn't look to YA. That's not to say that adults shouldn't read YA or that they can't find issues and feelings to empathize with in YA. I'm just explaining that this is the thought process that I had with Shelter. So now I'm going to move on to some of the observations that I've made. I've seen comments from authors who are trying to get published, and they've been turned down by publishing companies because what they write isn't generally what's trendy in young adult fiction. For example, specific tropes and plotlines. While trends are an inevitable social construct, this is extremely discouraging and frustrating for someone who wants to get their work seen and gets turned down because it doesn't fit a certain norm, even though it may be really high quality work. Also, while formulating this discussion, I went on other people's chats about YA and I looked through the comments. I discovered a lot of comments from people who are older than the target YA audience saying that they're scared or they don't want to make a channel because they won't be well received on Booktube. I was also on Reddit the other day, and there were many threads of people looking for Booktube recommendations, and the overwhelming response is that Booktube is full of vapid teens who don't read critically and only read well-marketed popular YA fiction. So I'm going to respond to both of these points in the same way. Like I said in my comfort zone talk, I think that there's something nice between finding a balance between books that challenge us, but also books that help us feel safe. I know that a lot of us find solace in reading and are escapist readers, and to constantly challenge ourselves can be really exhausting. That being said, with most popular booktubers primarily reading YA, there is a whole vast other section of books that's getting very minimal exposure. Like Katie also said, there may be some fear and trepidation for people who are trying to transition from reading only YA to trying a little bit of fiction that was intended for an older audience. This is kind of why I do those hidden gem discussions that I do, is because if someone who reads mostly trendy books can find a book that is a little bit underhyped, I would be really happy to promote those books to you guys. And in response to the people who are looking for booktubers who are non-YA, there is a whole slew of channels that I like to watch, and I will recommend them all to you at the end of this video. You guys are probably wondering what this means for the future of my channel. I mean, basically nothing. You will probably have recognized it in the past couple months. I've been reverting back to my tastes before I tried to consume a lot of YA very quickly, because I thought that was the norm here on Booktube. I'm honestly going to continue picking up whatever I want to read, whether that be children's lit, middle grade YA, or for an older audience. Like, it does not matter to me. If I like it, I'm gonna pick it up. Specifically, I have always really loved thrillers, literary fiction, and contemporary, and have recently grown more and more frustrated with the YA that I have been reading. I think there is an amazing selection of books out there that is being really underrepresented and underpromoted on Booktube. But I mean, tomorrow I may come across a YA book that I really like. I mean, who knows? I'm just gonna read whatever I like and unapologetically like whatever I like. Now I'm going to recommend some channels that read mostly non-YA books that I really love. So first I'm going to recommend Mercedes at Mercy's Bookish Musings. Right now she's really into like magical realism. She also reads a lot of literary fiction, short story collections, and fantasy. I am also going to recommend Max at Well Done Books and Vanessa at Shabosky. One of the first people that I discovered on Booktube that really encouraged me to comment on social issues is Marinus at My Name is Marinus, and I'm actually reading her Booktube Recommends pick in March. And if y'all are looking for science fiction and fantasy recommendations that aren't YA, I would recommend Rachel at Kalinati. For some psychological horror-esque kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend Katie at Chapter Stacks. And like I talked about in my Genreathon video, the three ladies that I'm hosting Genreathon with, Brittany from Under the Radar Books, Kristen from Vienna Waits Books, and Lauren from Lauren and the Books, have reading tastes that are really similar to mine with a slight few tweaks. We all just kind of pick up whatever we want at the moment, and that is literally like the whole range of books that's out there. So those are all channels that I would recommend to you guys, and I will link them all in the down bar below. So that is it for this video. I am sure many of you have a lot of views on this topic, so please leave me a comment if you do. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!